March 27, 1999. Just past 8 o'clock at night, over Serbia, at approximately 8,000 meters altitude, a ghost is gliding. Radars can't see it. At least they're not supposed to. But that night, somewhere down below, the commander of a missile battery equipped with old Soviet technology is looking at his screen and seeing something that shouldn't be there. In a few minutes, a stealth aircraft will have been shot down for the first time in history, and aviation history will be changed forever. It's March 1999. The humanitarian crisis in Kosovo has reached its peak. NATO is launching the air campaign known as Operation Allied Force against Serbia. Hundreds of aircraft are flying missions to neutralize Serbian air defenses. One of the most prestigious elements of this massive air power is the F-117 Nighthawk, an engineering marvel created by Lockheed's Skunk Works division, the world's first operational stealth combat aircraft. In the 1991 Gulf War, it made up only 2% of the coalition's total aircraft, yet these planes struck close to 40% of the strategic targets, without a single loss. They flew into and out of Baghdad's most heavily defended targets in the darkness of night, with no escort whatsoever. It was precisely this perception of invincibility that would make the events of the night of March 27th so shocking. The F-117's stealth technology was revolutionary for its era. That strange angular geometry wasn't a design preference. It was a mathematical necessity. Ironically, at its foundation lay a paper published in 1964 by Soviet physicist Pyotr Ufimtsev. The Soviets never recognized the military potential of this paper, but Lockheed's engineers did. They designed a fuselage that scattered radar signals in other directions rather than reflecting them back to their source, and coated it with radar-absorbent materials. The result was an aircraft that produced a radar signature no larger than a marble. But there's a critical distinction here. Stealth does not mean invisibility. It never did. Stealth technology reduces the radar cross-section. It dramatically shortens the detection range. In other words, the enemy radar can see you, but it has to be much closer to do so, and by the time it gets that close, it's usually too late. But every technology has an Achilles heel. The F-117 was designed against modern radars operating at specific frequencies. But what if the other side does something not written in the book? Enter Colonel Zoltán Dani, commander of the 251st Missile Brigade of the Serbian Air Defense Forces. His weapon? The S-125 Neva, a Soviet-built system that entered service in 1961, nearly 40 years old. On paper, this missile was an antique that shouldn't have stood a chance against the F-117. But Colonel Dani was no ordinary commander. Before the NATO campaign began, Dani studied the operational habits of the F-117s and noticed several critical things. First, the F-117s were repeating the same air corridors. Second, when the bomb bay doors opened, the aircraft's radar cross-section momentarily increased. That stealth geometry broke apart the instant the doors cracked open. Third, Dani had modified his radar. It's believed he adjusted the S-125's radar to operate on longer wavelengths. The fact that long wavelength radars can be more effective at detecting stealth aircraft was a known principle of physics. And then there was his tactical intelligence. Dani didn't keep his radar on continuously. He knew that some of NATO's missiles were designed to detect and destroy active radars, so he switched his radar on and off in short bursts of only about 20 seconds. He kept his unit constantly relocating and changing positions. Against the invisible aircraft, he wove an invisible defense. The evening of March 27th, the fourth night of the operation, an F-117 takes off from Aviano Air Base. The pilot, Captain Dale Zelko, an experienced name. He had flown F-117s in the Gulf War as well. His mission, to strike strategic targets around Belgrade. Everything appeared routine. The F-117 was advancing toward the target alone, without escort. But down below, near a village, Colonel Dani's team was waiting. By evaluating intelligence sources and reports from local observers, he had predicted that an F-117 would pass through his area that night. The radar was switched on for a brief moment. A trace appeared on the screen, faint, but it was there. It had likely coincided with the moment the aircraft opened its bomb bay doors or executed a maneuver. Dani didn't hesitate. 2 missiles were fired. The first missile shattered the Nighthawk's left wing. The aircraft spiraled out of control. Captain Zelko pulled the ejection handle and was hurled into the dark Serbian night. The F-117 slammed into the ground. For the first time in world history, a stealth aircraft had been shot down under combat conditions. Zelko landed in a cold, dark field. The danger wasn't over. He was in the middle of Serbian territory. He reported his status via his communication device and hid. For 8 hours, he survived by hiding from Serbian search teams. At dawn, an American search and rescue helicopter found him and extracted him to a safe zone. Zelko was physically unharmed, but the impact of that night shook him deeply. In interviews he gave years later, he described in detail the moment he hit the ground and those hours spent waiting to be rescued. The news of the F-117's downing hit the world like a bombshell. Serbian television triumphantly broadcast footage of the wreckage. The remains of America's most secret technology were being displayed in the Serbian countryside, and the strategic significance of that wreckage was enormous. Those pieces contained the chemical composition of the F-117's radar-absorbent coating, the details of its stealth geometry. Some analysts claimed that wreckage fragments reached Russia and China, and that these countries benefited from this information in their own stealth programs. It was never officially confirmed, but it remained a widespread belief within the aviation community. This event brought several critical lessons to light. First, technological superiority is fragile in the face of tactical errors. Flying the same routes had handed the enemy a pattern, and in war, patterns are lethal. Second, stealth alone is not enough. That night, the F-117 was flying without any electronic warfare support. The perception of invincibility had loosened operational security. Third, underestimating the enemy is always a mistake. Dani's creativity and tactical acumen transformed a 40-year-old system into a deadly weapon. Today, the night the F-117 was shot down continues to be taught at military academies and war colleges as one of the most striking examples of asymmetric warfare. This case, demonstrating that a technology worth billions of dollars could be defeated by creative thinking and disciplined intelligence work, proved just how dangerous the mindset of dependence on a single system is in modern defense industry. So much so that after this incident, many countries revisited their air defense doctrines and significantly increased their investments in counter-stealth technologies. The tactics Colonel Dani employed that night entered the literature as concrete proof that even low-cost, outdated systems can neutralize high-technology threats. The F-117 program was retired in 2008. This incident wasn't the sole reason. Next-generation aircraft like the F-22 were coming online. But the loss over Serbia had permanently shattered the Nighthawk's aura of invincibility. Perhaps the most compelling part of the story took place years after the war. In 2011, Captain Dale Zelko and Colonel Zoltán Dani met face-to-face. The man who shot him down and the pilot who was shot down came together. This wasn't a meeting of hostility, it was one built on mutual respect. Zelko said he admired Dani's military skill. Dani expressed his satisfaction that Zelko had survived. The two formed a friendship. Today, the U.S. Air Force's stealth philosophy has been shaped by the lessons drawn from this event. The F-22 and F-35 were designed not only in terms of radar cross-section, but also with electronic warfare capabilities and network-centric warfare features. Stealth is no longer a standalone shield. It's part of a multi-layered survival strategy. On the night of March 27, 1999, a myth was shattered. The invisible aircraft became visible. This story should not be read as one side's victory or the other's defeat. No matter how advanced technology may be, the human factor can always change the equation. And as Dale Zelko floated down on his parachute that night, he was probably thinking, being invisible is nice, but sometimes someone sees you. That's all for Reysa Vector. Until the next story. And perhaps the deepest lesson to be drawn from this story lies not in the technology itself, but in the illusions woven around it. Throughout history, mankind has always chased the idea of an ultimate weapon: impenetrable walls, unsinkable ships, planes that can't be shot down. Every single time, the same cycle repeated itself. A technology creates a revolution, remains untouchable for a while, and then someone finds its weakness.